we say that, yes, thank you, is a process in our consciousness side. We say that actually, the moment you get to be self-conscious, then you get to actually be able to know your potentials and your ability and ignite you ignite your power, your inner power, then you can actually overcome everything. And so I believe that, yes, as a people of Africa, either we are where we are because we have not been able to overcome fears and some fear that are not realistic, things that are imposed on us or we are afraid of that are not realistic. And I believe that if we can be able to tap to that, what we always say, the mental revolution, if we can be able to actually liberate our mind from that fear, then you can do anything. People do great things that people who actually dream beyond. People take steps that people don't believe in. Sakara said that he took the madmen of yesterday for us to act with clarity today. So I think that's what I really liked about this topic. And it's a work topic because it's only fear, nothing else. It's not lack of resources, it's not lack of financial ability, it's only the fear that brings us down as a people. Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure having you today. And I hope you received the 2 recordings for the previous sessions. Thank you.
We did, and thank you very much, our brother. Thank you for your custom. Thank you for all your support. Without us consciously working together to free Africa, there is no way Africa is going to be free. We cannot wait for someone to come outside of Africa to come and free Africa. Africa is going to be freed by its children. And how are they going to do that? By freeing themselves first. Daddy Mafole, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Let me just add something that I think both you and the last speaker did not mention. Actually, fear is part of our being.
Mm-hmm.
We are naturally wired for fear, for our own protection and survival.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as we grow from the young age, we need to be helped, enabled by our parents and caregivers to outgrow the fear, the natural fear, to be able to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why, remember, I showed the video at the beginning of the last session. And the colonizers and the slave owners studied the human being, studied fear, and realized that fear can actually be manipulated. You can increase it or you can mature out of it. So what we are dealing with now is the compounded effects of both fears, both the natural fear and the instilled one. Now, if we are not aware and we do not take into account the natural fear, then we may miss something out because it may still be there. So it is both of them. I think it is very important that we remember that it is both fears compounded. And when we take it as just colonization fear, it would leave some solutions out. And it would also mean that it is only those who are colonized who have the fear. And yet, it is not just us. Even the whites who were suppressed by the few of them still have to deal with that fear. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you very much for that intervention. I think I recall in one of your writing that Mafole writes a lot. He talked about excessive fear. Excessive fear. So it's not just fear, it becomes excessive fear, which stops you. It stops you doing anything, stops you being yourself, as Comrade Pigbin has said. All right. Any further comments? We are many in here, and I'm sure we have a lot to contribute. Queen, is there anything you want to say? Or is your signal struggling? Welcome, Sister Mary X. Today, what we are going through is washout, a review of the sessions we went through with Mr Sematlane in January. At the moment, we are talking about fear. He just elaborated more on that fear to say, we are born with natural fear, but when we are young, we need to be managed, we need to be helped by our parents to outgrow that natural fear. But unfortunately, here we have the colonizer coming in and studying fear and realizing that fear can be manipulated. You can either increase it or you can reduce it. And what they have done is to turn it up. And by so turning it up and adding it with the natural, which we haven't outgrown, we end up with a compounded fear or excessive fear. And that's what has been driving Africa, or let me say the other way, stopping Africa's progress. All right. Any further comments, views, thoughts? Let's not forget this is the farmers of thought. And today is a farming space.
Good evening.
Good evening,
I hope anybody. How are you?
Ah, my goodness, we are so happy that today we have you. It's been such a long time. Yes.
I always said I had a problem with joining in via the WhatsApp video, but with Zoom, I'm able to. I would like to say good evening to everyone. I'm glad that I'm part of the group and I'm learning very much. And to the organizers, you guys are doing an amazing job, and I wish that we can have more people joining these forums, for the lack of better words, because I think the more people get in, the more we understand, the more we free ourselves, and the more we can face that fear that you are talking about. But for the lack of better words or better things to say, thank you very much for the education. I'm enjoying learning. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Well put. Well said. And I am so happy today we get to hear you, because you have been following several of our trainings before, discussions before, but not being able to contribute even though you wanted. So welcome. Further thoughts? Any thoughts? Sister Marie, any thoughts, reflections? Is that? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
Good evening.
Go ahead,
I'm listening from Kenya, and
welcome,
I'm
King.
for of your discussions. Mine is like a question. Is a kind of a question. I wanted to ask whether there is any advantage of having fear or the high adrenaline, something connected to that. Is there any relationship?
Well, good question. As I said when I started, there is a fear which we are primed or we are wired to have. And that fear was there from the beginning when we, as basic human beings, let me say, we had to know how to protect ourselves from danger, whether we had to fight the wild animals or we had to run away from them. So fear or flight or fight. There's that flight or fight mode. But luckily that Mr Sematlane is here. Do you want to elaborate more on that, Mokamedi?
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Can I, Shalom? My apology. My phone has been acting up. I wanted to.
We can hear you now.
to
We can hear you loud and clear.
I'm humbled.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on fear. You know, when we are brought up, our parents had a system. These are one of the indigenous wisdom system that I value a lot. Our parents had a system of limiting us or limiting our minds to that which is relevant for us at the time. So they created warnings that created some kind of fear in us to not engage in certain things. But this fear was I don't even think maybe it's the English word. I don't think I should even be referring to that as fear. For example, to prevent or keep the young ones' minds from being sexually active, especially the girls, and being concerned of things that are too far from you. For example, you'll be told that when you menstruate, it means that you've been sexually active. Now, that will get a girl child to be very cautious and fearful to not even be, because they'll be caught up. But then when they get into that stage, they use that also to check how if you've been sexually active or not, because then when you're innocent, you'll be saying, but I've never done anything, and then they will sit with you, the elders will sit with you and explain to you that you are growing up, you're going through another cycle and everything. So there has been so many ways to keep. I think this one came up my mind currently. But the fear that is toxic is the one that deprives one to be self. The fear that destroys self-confidence. The fear that destroys one's ability to apply critical thinking and analytical thinking skills. And this is the fear that has caught our people up. I'm not sure whether our people ever sit and analyze or critique cycles and what is happening in life. But basically, we are being turned into robots, because you go to education, it's telling you it's a give and take. You recite recitation and you limit yourself to that. And then you grow up with a limited mentality and perspective into life. And that has been so toxic to us that we end up becoming weapons of self-destruction. Now, our people, there's something called the fear of unknown. Our people, I believe that we suffer a lot from that, because self-confidence we lack. What I have found to be very medicinal, and that's what what I value farmers of thought for, is that when you focus on yourself, you find yourself. You know your strength, you know your weaknesses, you know what you are capable of and what you're not capable of, and you explore, you become adventurous about yourself. That boosts self-confidence, that builds self-confidence. And when you have self-confidence, you are able to break through from the chains of oppression and slavery, because then you start criticizing and analyzing. And when they say, I always said to people, I think it's because of the man who brought me up. I still appreciate my father so much. He had this thing that when you reason and you will say, so and so has done this and that, has led me to do 1, 2, 3. He will ask you, what does your mind teach you? And that has taught me that I've got my own brains. I think for myself. So it's even if everyone can agree on something, but if I find it not to be taking me where I want to be, or if I find it to be destructive, I will stand to say, this is not the path. Because I critique and analyze the future of, or the destiny of the path taken. And that has helped me a lot to take preventative measures and spare myself time and the frustration of being excited by something and then later on coming back. So to be disappointed. So I wish I just wanted to highlight on those few things that we have fear that we are brought up with. We will fear being punished, but that fear was building us up and disciplining us, because we knew that there are moral ethics, there are things that we need to do and things that you're not even supposed to even consider, and because we feared to be punished, we obeyed and we were humbled. There is a fear that is toxic, which the enemy is using to control us, which is destroying our identity, our self, and turning us mostly into robots. Let me pause there. King Koko, Ntate Sematlane? Ntate Mafole?
Me?
Yes,
Hello,
I said let me pause there. You touched based on some of these things. I just wanted to just go deeper with. That's what came to my mind as I was doing the recap of what has been presented. So let me pause there.
Okay. Yes, I think we need to be careful, because some things are done with good intentions, but then result in alternative consequences. Punishment should not be overused. Parents should have time to explain things to their children. Now, when we don't give ourselves time, or maybe we are ignorant, we tend to want to use punishment as a shortcut. And one of the things is the fear pathway, brain pathway, does not distinguish between what the fear was about. All that it does is it becomes habitual. And so we need to be able to balance that, because we are already wired for that. We should be shown the consequences of doing things that have danger to us. And also, the other thing is, sometimes, even though a little stick here may not be that dangerous, small punishment here and there once in a while, but what is important is to build the child's brain and mind by giving them words and ideas and concepts that will help them to grow. So that is one of the reasons, or the purposes, that talking to our children or talking with our children helps them. It helps them by putting in more words in their vocabulary for later thinking, because we use words for thinking. Now, if we replace some of those opportunities with punishment, then we deny them a vast opportunity of a rich vocab that will help them to think. The other thing is, as individuals, we tend to be embarrassed by some of these things. We get embarrassed by being thought to be fearful. So we always want to play macho that we do not have any fear. We want to play macho that, no, me, the colonizers, did not have that impact on me. Whereas, as I said, this fear is natural. It's important to have it. It's already there, it's natural. Yes, fear of the unknown actually is said to be the strongest fear. Some researchers say that it is even stronger than the fear of death. And we need to understand it, because what we want is, as human beings, we are wired like that. We are wired for continuity and routine. So we need a very delicate balance as we grow up, so that we're able to balance fear and love. I think that's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Ndade. So, to the question about adrenaline, adrenaline is natural. Adrenaline allows you to function as a human being, but we have to be careful about excessive fear, and we have to be careful about the overusage of punishment, which in the end leads to fear becoming habitual, because the brain pathway which will have used fear, it doesn't distinguish what the fear was about. I hope all of this answer your question, my brother. Ipsy.
Oh yes, I just want to appreciate what Ndate Mafole has just added. Communication plays a major role in every relationship or in every relation. And one of the things I'm actually going now into the lifestyle, one of the things that becomes or toxic of lately, it's that the lifestyle that we lead, we get so busy that we end up not having enough time to communicate in patience with one another because of life's pressure. And indeed, parents end up not sitting down with their children and explaining to them why you're not supposed to do this, why you're supposed to do this. And now they end up using punishment, and children live under fear. And this creates a problem whereby now the children grow up being vulnerable to abuse and keeping deep secrets because they fear that if I tell, I will be accused or I won't be listened to. And I think this is the very same problem that we are stuck with. So many of our people are not confident enough or courageous enough to speak their mind and stand their grounds. Even though that's my analysis, though, even though your guide or your conscience will tell you that no, this is not, but for the fact that you won't have support or majority won't understand you, you end up going with the flow because you fear being rejected, you fear being an outcast, you fear being the different one. So I wish we could just work on that. The beauty of overcoming, if we can focus on self-confidence and contentment, we will find our breakthrough and our solution. Now, the other thing that I want to add on, it's I think it was on is it second page that Mafole just touched on the presentation. I think it was on the second page. In most cases, our relation is dented by inability to comprehend the different backgrounds. We become so comfortable with routines and standard routines that wherever we go, we want the situation to be the same. And that has deprived us, or is continuing to deprive us, the joy of living, because then we simply exist. Because when we stuck with routines, it's only copy and paste and we limit it. It says it's said, it's limited, you can't go beyond. But when you are living, you perceive life, or you comprehend life to be an adventurous journey. You go beyond limits. You try this, you try that, you try this, you try, and we end up having a lot of different stories of your experience and your achievement, and that will take us to another level to say, but in as much as it's said that we can't achieve, I was talking to somebody, for example, I was talking to somebody this morning, and I said, the best way for us to overcome the stigma that has been built around us, that Black people don't have integrity, Black people cannot work together, they are scamming each other and all those things. It needs us to come together and change the status quo in action. Our deeds, we can have something that we do together and start telling more about our stories, our successes. This helps us to unlock the fear of others. Because when we tell of our courageous steps, somebody gains courage somewhere. And when we tell of our adventure, somebody think along that line that, wow, okay, though my instinct has been guiding me, I was afraid to try it, but then if somebody else tried it, then I can try it also. But what I wanted to touch on was that if we are stuck with a standard routine, the problem is that wherever I go, if I go to Ghana, I won't enjoy Ghana as it is and how they are living there and how they do things, because I will want to take my standard routine to Ghana. And when I speak of Ghana, or when I get there, I want to correct each and every one to come and adjust into what I want to, wherever I want. Then when I go to Zimbabwe, I want things to be according to the way I want them to be, instead of me appreciating what Zimbabwe is about and learning. So life is a journey. That's what I always say. It's an adventurous journey. Let's go out, let's explore, let's experience new things. Let's not only new things in a colonial context, but new things to say, how was our forefathers living, something new to us, what is the indigenous system teaching us, what is it that is having for us, what kind, if I happen to be in a very rural place, I appreciate that they don't have road signs, they don't have street names, but yet they are still able to direct each other to the next point and critique and analyze to realize that, wow, these people, they are intact with nature actually, because their road signs and their markings is based on their knowledge of the trees, because they'll be directing you according to this tree. When you reach this kind of shrub, when you reach this kind of tree, you will. So you will turn left and turn right, and ultimately you'll get to your destiny. So one thing that is keeping us in cycles of fear and oppression and awe, being unable to realize that we are rounding the same cycle over and over again. It's because we recite the same toxic mentality, the same toxic theory that is keeping us limited, that is keeping us unable to go beyond whatever that is said it is, yeah, let me just stop there. Can I pause there?
Thank you very much, my queen. That was useful. You have managed to take that fear from that excessive fear to show how it's stopping us progressing, how it's stopping us getting out of our comfort zones and learning new things or experiencing new things or even going out of our normal countries to go and explore other countries in Africa. So I guess the Berlin conference partitions are now working along with that fear. And if the borders are being enforced, it comes as a very effective tool to divide and conquer us. Because we are not going to work together, are we, if we are afraid of one another or each other for unfounded fear, the fear of the unknown. But letting go of that fear, we become ourselves. A young man asked me in another group and said, how do I reach consciousness? How do I reach consciousness? This is something which I want you all to discuss here, is how do you reach that level of consciousness that is required to see Africa being the best that it should be, the richest continent on the planet, with the people still living below the poverty line? Where is the consciousness in that? Why is one African man thinking that they can accumulate all the resources, they can hoard all the resources of Africa to themselves and leave the whole country destitute and poor? Where is the consciousness in that? That's one question I have. The second question is, to you, Mr Mafole, Christianity, Islam, the religions which are all external to us as human beings, what part are they playing here? Because you're always told, if you don't do this, you go to hell. If you do that, you're going to hell. So you're more directed by fear. You're controlled by fear to obey an external God. How do we tie this into this consciousness? Mr Mafole.
Yes, sir.
Where does religion come in into that, all that equation of fear? And how do we obtain consciousness?
Let's remember that we are created wholesome. Let me take an example of the Bible, because that's the one I'm more familiar with, except that I'm aware that there would be parallel or similar verses from other faiths. In the Bible, Matthew 7, verses 13 and 14, Christ talks about two gates: the narrow one that leads to life and the wide one that leads to destruction. Those two gates that he's talking about or referring to are actually those brain pathways that we've been talking about. The wide gate is the fear brain pathway that leads to destruction when it is overused. Because as we said, we need to have fear so that we can be able to avoid danger and survive. The narrow gate is the longer love brain pathway. each when a stimulus or a challenge or wider fear pathway, so that it can reach the fear center quickly and enable us to react or respond very quickly to a danger. What it does is that fear, the brain fear center, then gets the brain to secrete the fear hormones, the adrenaline and cortisol, which narrows and constricts blood from flowing through the narrow pathway that goes towards the higher thinking brain. Now, consciousness has been mapped out by a Dr. Hawkins in his book, Power versus Force, which basically is love versus fear. And he divides generally, broadly, human consciousness into two broad spectrums. The negative spectrum of fear and the higher spectrum of love. Now, I'm relating this to what church says. When you awaken, in the broader sense, not just experiencing something new, but growing in consciousness, you are moving from the lower fear levels to the higher love levels. And you may remember in the awakening session, I talked about the Bible or different faiths talking about the same body, the same brain, the same mind of the human being that is talked about in science. The problem is that theology and science decided to separate some centuries ago, which was a bit dangerous because they are talking about the same thing. But now, as they talk about the same thing, theology now falls short. I'll give an example, which I think I did in the awakening session. For instance, the Roman Catholic Church offers sessions for confessions. And the confessor gets into a room alone. The priest is in another room and the confessor is not even seeing the priest. And only the confessor confesses. But then this confessor also sees the priest in day-to-day life. That process falls short of what ought to be done. Social healing or healing requires first to create a properly safe space. The two enclosures would seem to provide safety, but that's physical safety. We need safety where we have confidence in the priest. We know the priest is also human, like every other human being. He learns through mistakes. It's called sin in religion or in Christianity. It's called sin. But human beings are wired to learn by trial and error, making mistakes. correcting them, adjusting whatever they need to adjust until they succeed. So if you get condemned for being a sinner, when you are actually created to be like that, to learn through mistakes, then it causes you to fear. It causes you to fear to raise your own consciousness or consciousness level. It fails to help you to grow in love. Love, as Ipsi said, you need to know yourself first. And Mushweshwe's Basotho founder's mentor gave him one big instruction for him to prepare, to be ready for taking up the type of leadership and building a nation that he wanted to build. He instructed him to know his people and to love them. That's the biggest maxim for life. Everything that we are all about is about moving from that fear to love. It is about moving from lower levels of consciousness, negative energy levels of consciousness, to higher levels or positive levels of consciousness. I hope that maybe this comes to respond to what you asked, Dade Koko.
That is fabulous. That's fabulous. Thank you very much for that. To build on that, I would like to remind all our guests here that Ubuntu says motu yemotu kabatu. A person is a person because of others. I am because we all are. That has love on itself. Is based on love. Is saying, I cannot be doing well when my neighbor down the road is not doing well. I should not, in my conscious self, survive and do well when all around me is poverty. Another thing with Ubuntu, it says, umuntu gumuntu gabantu. It doesn't just stop there to say you have to make others feel well-to-do. It's more of, okay, if I make mistakes, then other people also do make mistakes. We are all humans. We are not infallible. We make errors. We learn by making errors. And we correct those errors. And this is how it all comes back and combines with what we are trying to do on governance. Because again, Ubuntu says, Morena, ki Morena, kasicha, which means the chief or the king is only a ruler by the virtue of his people. It's his people who make him who he is. But unfortunately, that has been turned around on its head now under democracy. We seem to be adoring or idolizing the leaders who we are meant to be choosing and giving them mandate to rule on our behalf. So it's important. It's important. That's why I'm trying to connect all of these dots and show you why we are working on ourselves in order to go back and work on our governance. I hope this is clear, but do please come in, query, critique, or add. Queen Ipsy, your hand is still up.
Yes, my king. I just wanted to add on what you, or try to respond to your question. Where is our consciousness in the midst of it all? I believe that there is no change that will come without action. It's action that brings about change. The system, as I've highlighted earlier on, has taught us to fear one another. You mentioned it just now earlier on. It's up to us to take a courageous stand to act against whatever the ideology that has been instilled in us. I'm not being ignorant to the fact that it is not easy. Remember, you watching news every now and then, you are reminded about the hijacking, the crime, and then it's committed by these black people, these foreigners. This, we end up calling our brothers foreigners and whatsoever, you know. So we always think the worst of each other because what we are continuously feeding on. But if you take a courageous stand, then you get to individually experience something different. And that this kind of update that we get from them, it's killing our conscious. You know, my father will say, "Letswalo la motho ke modisa." You know, your conscious is your God. You know, I want to make an example, a practical example. Growing up, we used to give each other lifts freely. You'll even be merciful towards those who have reasons to travel, but maybe not having money and everything. But life has been so changed that everything is about money. Now, apart from being about money, then there arose another issue of safety. Now, if my conscience is at rest to pass somebody walking by the road, hiking a lift in a rainy weather, and be at peace to pass the person and say, "Ish, I'm in a rush. I can't give him or her a lift because I just came out of car wash. Now I'm having to take whatever our reasons. She's gonna disturb my comfort, whatever." Without having that mercy that this person is walking on the rain, let me just give him. I might not be going where he is going or where she is going, but let me meet him or her halfway, you know. Then that is where we have lost it. It's unfortunate that our conscience has been killed in small portions and cycles over a period of time. I get employed in a company as a driver. My employer owns me for the hours that he employs me, and he gives me his car. And the laws are very strict, and it's claimed to be under security reasons. And I'm not supposed to give anyone a lift. Even if I pass my child, or I have to pass my child, I can't lift my child. Whether I see my child walking by the road, or my wife, or my aunt, or my mom, in a very hot, sunny day, I can't lift her because I am going to lose my job. So I have to choose between Ubuntu humanity and my job. This I believe to be the thin lines that our people don't or I might say overlook. And it slowly kills the consciousness. It slowly kills it until it's normal to say, and we start normalizing it now. I say, no, I understand it's his work. Yes, my work is. Then I always say, why do you have to choose work that is making you to compromise the principles of Ubuntu, humanity. The I am because you are. It means that whatever I deserve, you deserve. Be it you have it or you don't have it. Meaning, if I'm wealthy and I'm privileged, so I shall see to eat that the good food that I eat, you also eat it because you deserve as much as I deserve. But unfortunately, the system has destroyed us to an extent that we don't become considerate of the next person. And every individual is building their own individual empire. I was having an engagement with somebody and say, you know, we are running behind chasing after money. The unfortunate part with money is that we don't own this money. You can secure and gather as much. It will only take you 1 second to wake up and realize that if maybe I'm betting on the euro or the dollar or the pound, to wake up and realize that it has lost value, meaning all my money is no longer valuable, it's nothing. But when you have invested in building relations to Ubuntu, humanity, there is nothing that will destroy it, come rain, come storm. So our conscience has died. The more we adopt the toxicity or the foreign system, the more we disconnect. Because remember, you cannot serve two masters at the same time. The more we disconnect and we lose self. Now, the Bible, I want to also touch on the Bible. You know, one thing that I've learned or I've observed or I've concluded is that you know, when I tell my story, it's different from when somebody else with other motive tells my story. And when I have reached a state, that is why we need to continuously keep our analytical thinking and critical thinking alive in practice, critique and analyze everything continuously. Because I can learn from everything and anything, and I can find goodness in everything and anything. But if the critical thinking and analytical thinking skills are dead, when I am a robot, then I become a danger to myself, because whatever I am told, I believe it as it is, I receive it as it is, and I believe it, and then I run with it. Then I become what I usually call an agent of self-destruction, or a marketing agent of colonial system. We continue sustaining them. When you go through the what you call the Torah, you find a lot of principles of humanity. The book of Leviticus is speaking of I think it's Leviticus 18 verse 19. It's speaking of, do not hold grudge against your people. You shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. Now, that principle alone is teaching me that actually there's another one in the book of Numbers that says that this one it's humbling me continuously. It says that when you are on your journey, now we need to have a picture of the ancient village setups, where there was a main gate where you enter the village, and then you'll be allowed into the village, you know, like the main gate to the city. It says, when I have left and I'm on my way, and on my way, I see my enemy's ox idling, it says that I should stop right there and take it back to the door of the village. Now, when I came across this, it taught me that it means as we dwell together, there's no enmity between us, because if you are my so if I declare you my enemy, King Koko, but I am forced to stop my journey, my going about, to make sure that your ox that is idling, it's taken back to the door of the village so that you can recover it, so that it doesn't go further and get lost, so that you don't lose, then it means you are not my enemy. Because if I have to go that far for you, I cannot go that far for you as an enemy. So it's destroying this mentality that we are enemies. We might have misunderstanding, but we cannot be enemies to one another. Therefore, it's bringing back that element of Ubuntu humanity. I am because you are. Because now, that's where we are taken back to our ancient ways, where we will compromise or we will sacrifice. That is what sacrifice is actually about. So, as we were taught this growing up in the ancient days, and how it has been interpreted by the colonial master when they came, it became two different stories, because they used, I always say to people, if you listen to King Leopold's letter, when he instructed the missionaries, he said, these people, do not teach them about God, they know about God. Present him in a manner that favors us. So it's only taking that which is there and twisting it. So it's all about how you comprehend it. When they say this, and I've always said to people, go read it for yourself. Start from the book of Genesis and go through it. When I went through it, I actually realized the value of family, blood lineage, because the book it's having so many chapters that will be breaking down that it's son of he's from this clan, he is, and this emphasizes the importance of clans, the importance of community, the importance of family, the importance of blind lineage. Now you move with it into the book of Exodus, how you relate with the Most High, righteousness, you seek righteousness, you pursue it. You just don't go about as you please.
Your signal is struggling, my queen.
I think is in the book of Exodus 20. You do not go on the altar stand about you just feel realize that when I'm on the journey, I just don't haphazardly do things, but I need to be conscious of what I do when. So I need to reflect every now and then as I'm on my journey. Now, the problem, I don't think it could be that maybe the book itself, but it's about believing somebody who brings, as like I always say, how do you believe somebody bringing his culture to you, criticizing your culture, and you open a door for that person to insult you and criticize you? Immediately when you do that, you have destroyed yourself. So yes, our conscience is dead because we have adopted, we have accepted, we have normalized things that disconnect us from Ubuntu humanity and the teachings. That's why farmers of thought, it's always giving thinking tool as a gift. You need to critique. Whose lenses are you perceiving life from? Where are you reasoning from? Is it what the Westerners taught you, or is what your forefathers taught you? Is it what the Northerns taught you, or the Easterns taught you? Or is it what you know, what your forefathers taught you? I'm humbled. Much appreciation.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any hands? Anyone wants to come in before I build on what you just said? No. So what I like about what you said and what Mr Mafole said, that is Sematlane, he said, know your people, love your people. Here was a young man who went to a celebrated chief rainmaker, traditional doctor at that time, and a philosopher, because he came from his line. He was also from the same family as him. Let's not forget, Mosheshe and Mhlomi come from the same family tree. But Mhlomi, being the younger of his brothers, was more successful than his elder brothers. And Mosheshe was intrigued by this. And he said, uncle, how come you have done so well for yourself? Can I get some of your medicine? Can I get some of your medicine so I can be a big chief like you and a rich man like you? And Mhlomi says to him, there's no medicine for greatness, my son. There's no medicine for that. The medicine is the heart. We all know what that means. The heart is where love resides, according to our belief as Africans. We believe that is where love comes from. That's where consciousness resides. Well, long story short, we believe you have a good heart, you have love. You have a bad heart or black heart, sometimes it's called black heart, you don't have love. And if you have a white heart, funny enough, it means you are greedy. You are greedy. So he said to him, the medicine is your heart. I'm saying this because you talked about us as Africans having distrust against our brothers from other Berlin Conference partitions. We look at them, we think, my God, he's going to rob me. Or we look at them, we say, oh, my God, he is darker than me. Maybe he is cruel. Because what did they teach you? They taught you that the darker they are, the more evil they are. But we need to think. This is where we as Africans have to use our brains. We have to use our minds to think and say, is this the right way of thinking? Isn't this my brother? Isn't this my own sister? That we have been divided, separated by a few generations. A few generations, we could have been cousins somewhere there, but our people decided to move the other way. His people moved another way. That's where we ended up where we are. And the more you start to look into all of this, learn about family, learn about yourself, is knowing your people, is loving your people. Then you stop being robots. You stop being told by a foreigner how you should treat your brothers and sisters. You stop being an agent of self-destruction. And the one man who most of us should really be reading, we should learn from him, was Mwalimu Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o. He is the man who walked that road already. He walked that path. He was educated in Kenya. He was educated in the West. He stopped consciously using English to write his work. He writes in Kikuyu. And he says to all of us, how did English all of a sudden become unchallenged? An unchallenged tool that we should be using to communicate amongst ourselves. How were we communicating before that? And in his lecture, which I attended early last year, in normalizing the abnormalities, he's asking us as Africans, why are we using English names when we have our own names? My daughter was asking me about evidence Mahopa, and I was laughing about that. But if you think about that, evidence has an English as a Sotho name or as a Pedi name, because I think by the same name I can say he's come from the north. Maybe Kipaki Mahopa. But because we as parents have been pushed to an extent where we think we are giving our children an edge by giving them white men's names, we end up even changing our own names. We are changing our own identity out of fear. Then let me wind up by saying the Europeans, where they were living before, they were following what is called feudalism. A feudalistic state at that time was hierarchical in nature. But we, the Bantu people, we followed a flat structure. And that flat structure, that's why we were able to select one amongst ourselves and make sure we hold him accountable for delivering on the mandate of the people. Something which is very difficult to do under a hierarchical nature, because there were lords. There were lords in England. And then under the lords, there were other little lords. And then under the lords, there were serfs. So why do we continue to go with the system which is not naturally African? It's fear. Fear of change. Fear of embracing ourselves. And I think this is where the Chinese went ahead of us, because they rebelled against that. They had their own issues. They dealt with them. It was not easy, but they went through the revolution and embraced the Chineseness. So next time anybody says, compare Africa with China, why is China where it was? China was also colonized before. China was occupied by Japan, but China has managed to be where it is. China has embraced its own philosophies, its own culture, its own people. It went through a cultural revolution, which is what we haven't done as Africans. And if we are to reclaim our governance, our traditions, our everything, we have to go through that painful transition. But I find most of us, as you say, we are scared. We are sitting in our comfort zone. We want to make money. Money is not going to help. We need to face ourselves. We need to look deep in ourselves and think what is stopping us and act. All right, any further questions, comments, contributions, colleagues? The biggest, the most effective tool, a book by Professor Mgujo Chiongo is Decolonizing Your Mind, Decolonizing the Mind. I have that copy for those who don't have it. For most of us who are in my group, I'm sure they have that book. He said, Berlin Conference was as much as was affected by the guns and cannons and the weapons. But after those guns and cannons were silenced, there was the chalk and blackboard, which was used to tie us, which was used to bind us. It's the education they gave us. So education, governance, economy, all of these things are tied together. Most of the historical books you read, they will tell you Africa was a dark continent. But if you look carefully, if you look at Chancellor Williams, he will tell you Africa had its own governance. It ran across the whole continent. They won't tell you that. And don't forget, The Greeks learned from the Africans. They got that democracy and then bastardized it and then sold it back to us again, just as they did with the wig and all many other things. We civilized them, but out of ignorance, we think they are civilizing us. No, we need to know the truth. We need to know the right education. That's what we need to get. We need to unlearn the poison which they have poisoned us with and get the right sort of education in order to move forward. Any comments, guys? Contributions?
If you allow me to just quickly come in, if through you, King Gogo.
Go ahead, my sister. Because doesn't look like there's anyone who.
The other thing that I wanted to touch on, as you speak of structures, the difference between their structure, their governance structure, and our structure that we use flat structure, and they use the hierarchy one. What crossed my mind is that in most cases we want to belong, and the fear of not wanting to be left out is what makes us submit and surrender. And because we want to belong, we also adopted a competition as a culture. And this is dividing us further, because the I am because you are cannot be practiced within the cycles of competition. Because with competition, I'm one person. Even when I don't like doing games with children and then there's a winner and there's this loser and everything. That spirit of competition whereby we have a winner and a loser, it's one of the silent weapons that is destroying one's self-confidence and embracing another against others. And we worship that particular person and envy that person. Now, that's why our people end up doing so many bad things behind closed doors, because they fear to lose their statuses that they have gained and being embraced over. So that's where ego kicks in. And then now, because I have to maintain that level and that standard, I go beyond limits. And it's one of the things that kills our consciousness. And now I fear the loss of status, but I do not fear doing evil. So we losing Ubuntu Butu over competition. I loved what you said earlier on, that Botu Ubuntu Morena ke Morena ka morafe. The king is a king because of the people he leads. In our ancient system, when you are a leader, the best interest of the people came first. And the best interest of the people will never come from you assuming or taking orders, being told that this is what the people want. That is where we had our cultural courts, khotla, where we come together and we spoke. That's what it means by the people shall govern. So as we journey through our awakening processes, and thank you very much, you've highlighted a lot on that. And that day, Sematlane had also highlighted much on that. We really need to be cautious of each and every step we take. Whatever that we've been doing, we just need to stop and say, is this it, or should I We really need to unlearn a lot of things. The education system has taught us. I was analyzing my my twin sister's daughter, her homework. I was going through it, and I perceived how I had a problem as to how they presented some lecture to them. They present African, it was like religions. They spoke nicely about all religions and they related them to God. But when they came to Africans, it was like they worship ancestors. And I had a problem with it because now, after that, they also teach on the other platform that it's demonic to worship ancestors and everything. So already this is destroying the child from a young age. So indeed, we really need to unlearn, detox, and learn from our people, our ways, and be more concerned and cautious of our ways. Be more interested of telling our own stories. Let us be creative and create our own. I'm humbled.
Thank you. Thank you, my queen. King Sematlane.
I just wanted to pick on the matter of Ubuntu. That Ubuntu is actually timeless, universal philosophy and principles. Universal philosophy and principles. And Ubuntu, if you look at the underlying principles and the rationale behind them, the philosophy, is what makes all of the things that you have problems with, problem with leadership, problem with governance at a global level. That is the key that we need. And that is what was snatched away from us by force and sustained or maintained through education and through religion. Now, yeah, we have been told about Ubuntu by our ancestors and our elders. So, to the extent we know about Ubuntu. But you have to be careful. It is not enough to just talk about Ubuntu. It is important to do the things that will help us to recover Ubuntu. It is important to unlock the potential. It is important to recover usage of our love brain pathway. Most important, because a lot of people talk about Ubuntu and we talk about it as if it is our right, it is African, we have it, and all we need to do is to just back on it. It is not enough to just back on it. It is important to actually work and learn these foreign systems, these competitive systems, and relearn Ubuntu. With all the pains that will come with it, the humility, because we have to be humble, to know ourselves, to see that we have been infected with fear, with excessive fear, unnecessary fear, and to relearn what is civil, what is humane. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much. It's now 8:15 on my end. I think on your end it's 10:15. I'll take two more speakers who haven't spoken today before I wrap up. So anyone, is there anyone who wants to come on? Not to fear. Do not fear in anything here. We are in this space because we need to deal with fear. We need Africans, leaders who are going to come up with solutions to solve Africa's problems. And fear should not limit you. Anyone?
Good evening. I apologize again. Sorry, I had load
No
shedding.
apologies. Don't even
So
apologize, my brother. Go ahead.
So I lost a lot, so I don't know what was spoken about. So if I'm wrong, I apologize in advance, just in case I'm off topic a lot. In terms of fear, one of the things that we do as Africans that we fear a lot is religion, you know. And then one of the things that we do, which I think that we are wrong as Africans, is that we want to choose what to believe, what not to believe within the Bible, or within the Quran, or within the other religious documentation. As Africans, we must be able to totally reject the Bible, to totally reject the Quran, to totally reject anything that is not written or that doesn't have our own spirituality. One of the things that is wrong, or one of the things that I think we are doing wrong, is that we want to, sorry, we want to be religiously right at the expense of our own spirituality. So in terms of spirituality, I think that one of the things that religions do it was enslave the African spirituality. So for us to totally be free, I think we should almost reject all religious materials. Because now we are saying, okay, sorry, my mind is a bit slow now. I've been working for 24 hours, so it's a bit slow. But one of the things that I think, apologies, gentlemen, I will contribute more next time. I'm just trying to figure out my mind. It can do like that, run away a little bit from me when I want to say something very important. But I'll just say, for my sake, I just think for Africa to be free and to be independent, the first thing that we need to do is to really reject all type of religion. And from there, on our own, just continue with this culture of self-awareness, self-knowledge, and self-determination. Remember that me, I'm one of those people who believe that, for example, 10 years ago, there was a BMW E90, for example. The following year, or 2-3 years later, BMW takes out another E90. 3 years more later, they take out another, whatever, E40 or E60 or E70. I believe it's like that in terms of humanity, that we are one of the regional or the oldest race on earth. And we are, I believe that we are, one of the things that we did wrong was that when other races came to be, is that we didn't update the software, for a lack of better words. So we continued on being rigid, or I think it's rigid. We continue without updating the software. And then for not updating the software, those who came after us were able to be on top of us because their softwares were updated. Apologies, gentlemen. I hope I'm making sense. Good evening.
You're making sense, my brother. And do not apologize. In Sesotho, I hope you master Sesotho. Muahotla ha tsekiswe. Muahotla ha tsekiswe. So when you are in court, you farm your thoughts. You say what you have to say. It's what you think. And as Mr Mafole said in the first session, we sit down in a court in a round cycle, and we all share our ideas. We deliberate on all of those ideas, and in the end, we shape the final solution. We come up with a consensus, something which we again have to relearn as Africans. So, from what you said, you're not far from what we said before, or what Queen Ipsy said, that we need to take what is ours. We need to take what is ours. And if there are issues, build on what we have as ours. Not throw the baby out with the bathwater, which is what we Africans have done. I guess under duress or under the point of a gun, or after being told that ours was inferior, we didn't know anything, we didn't have anything set up. When it comes to social and political structures in Africa, we were far ahead of everyone else because it started all here. And that's what we need to reclaim. We need to go back and get that. But in conclusion, I would like to also refer back to what my elder, that this Sematlane, said. It's important to unlock Ubuntu, that timeless, ancient philosophy. We need to work on it. Talk is not enough. In fact, talk is cheap, as they always say. It's in action. Actions speak better than words. If we want to go anywhere, we need to start acting. We need to show by actions and go easier on the words. So I think that's why, as FOT, we are working on governance. And as CSG, we are working on the philosophy. We are working on the ideology. We will converge in some point and come up with something that works for Africa. But the human being is at the center. But to really, humanism is what it's all about. The African puts the humans at the center. The community is at the center before the economy. Not what came from the West, where the economy is first. And then the society, everyone, culture, they are out. We need to go back to our languages. There is a lot of treasure in our languages, ladies and gentlemen. I beseech you, go learn your languages. Next time when we meet, you will find that lots and lots of stuff which our ancestors were doing, they are stored in our language. In our languages, we need to speak our languages. I know Comrade Pigbin is doing a lot on teaching Kiswahili on Tuesdays. For those that are interested, Consciousism Study Group is also delivering Swahili classes on Tuesdays. So going back to the Sesotho language, I talked about Morena Kasichaba, and my sister said it in Setswana. Again, just a reminder, Setswana, Botswana, Batswana, Basotho, Bapedi, like brothers and sisters. But again, when you look at the Nguni, on the other Nguni and cousins, we have been there together. We split again somewhere. And you look at Uganda, we have the Baganda. You look at Zimbabwe, we have the Bashona. You look at, everywhere you look, you just realize how close we are as family. And it's important we maintain those family ties. So a few words, which I want you to take away and think if they are there in your languages. Matsoho ahlatswa. So the hands wash each other. Izandla ziyagezana. I think in Zulu, if that's the right word. If there's a Zulu guy here, he'll probably correct me. But that is how we work together. We hold each other's hands. We wash each other's hands. And that's how we will be clean. We have already talked about Motokabat, which is probably everywhere. It's in there, it's inherent in Ubuntu. Then there is one which I think Comrade Pigbin once used, but I don't know if he can find this in his own native language. He says, "Bana ba monna ba arolela hloohwana tie." This is, I would say, one of the most significant words, because we're talking about a locust's head here. And it says the children or siblings will even share a locust's head when push comes to shove. They will share it because they feel each other's pain. There's empathy in Ubuntu. So go, my comrades, look for words in your languages which embrace or elaborate what Ubuntu is. It's now about 4 minutes to 8 on my end, and I would like to thank you all for being with us tonight. We will again continue this class. I hope to have someone from the Buganda Kingdom when we next meet, but we will probably also go back and converse with our customary law expert, my brother Marapedi Makara from Lesotho, who we didn't have enough time last time he was here. So this is a journey. It's a journey. It will continue, but it's only by holding our hands, each other's hand, one another's hand. It's only by knowing who we are, getting to know each other and loving each other, that we will get to the final, to the end of this journey. I thank you, comrades. All right. If there are no other comments, I am happy to declare this meeting ended.
Brother Coco.
Yes, my brother.
Apologies, I've been inactive a bit for some time. I was trying to converse with the elder brother from High Caribbean, Elder Joseph Antonia, and
Okay.
is interested to get in touch with the Farmers of Thought. That's what I was telling him. And I'll try to link you with him so that you can also join the Farmers of Thought, so that you can see how we can also bring the Caribbean. I know you say Maponga is in Caribbean. We see how we can bring the Caribbean voices actively to the African voices, because they are our brothers, despite of the distance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are.
Absolutely, my brother.
Anytime. So I will link you with him. I think we've discussed that. Apart from that, I've shared the Kiswahili link to our members who are interested. But also what you've said, I think is what I want to touch on a bit. You see, what you check our tomorrow discussion of our conscience in class, we are discussing about, of course, unity in diversity, you see, because we have different languages in Africa, we agree. We have different cultures in Africa, we agree. But how do you attain unity in that diversity? Because irrespective of where you are from, Lesotho or whatever, how can you possibly be able to attain unity in diversity? And things like cultural and social exchange, things like the roles of the institutions and individuals, things like the role of technology towards uniting us, contemporary dynamic issues, are things that we need actually to discuss. Because until we realize that you are one people, we will not have the Rwandese fighting with the Congolese, even as a proxy war, you see. So we still have a lot to do. And this is the process that we actually looking forward to, that at the end of the day, as I say what Nkrumah says, that it must start from our liberation. Then once we are liberated, it must move to our unification. And once we are liberated, united people, we can develop Africa. It's a process. So I believe that what we need to do is synergy. Let's synergize. Let's have this. That's why we as consciousness are ready to, let's bring the people together. Because nobody, like we Pan-Africans appear like we are in competition of Pan-Africans, which we are not. We are actually in the attainment of the goal of Pan-Africanism. So how do we unite in that direction so that we can be able to attain that unity? And that's why we are extending hand for other people to start working together. Let's see Farmers of Thought working with another organization. Let's see an organization starting working together, because the phase we are in the liberation of Africa is a phase for synergy and unity. If we cannot unite and synergize, we may still take time in competitions. And that competition will just kill us. So it's a high time we realize that It's not about the title of what you do. At the end of the day, we only attain one goal. The reason why the Farmers of Thought is here is to raise that consciousness in order to actually liberate Africa and develop Africa or unite Africa. It's the same goal we share as a people. So no matter the names we have, the same name you have Coco, we have Consciousism, we have Farmers of Thought. Those are names, we call them in conscious, they call them logical grammars. Those are logical grammars, you see. Either the errors, the syntax errors we have, but beyond that, we share a common destiny as a people. And the sooner we realize that, the faster we can unite. And the faster we unite in terms of actions and supporting each other's neighbors and brothers, then my brother, we will attain this. So it's a process. It needs all of us, and we must start it. What you're doing and what you're doing is start with the conversation, because out of conversation, we come up with clarity. And out of clarity, we can act. So I really appreciate this. We are always willing and ready to host these conversations. People say we just talk. Yes, we've not been talking for years. Let's talk now. And it's a time we not be ashamed. And but out of talk, we are not only talking, as you've said. You farm a pot. So you're in the process of developing a pot that you're farming. And out of farming, you'll harvest. So people should not say that you're just talking. No. In the process of talking, of course, you are farming a pot, and we are waiting for the harvest. And the harvest is the goal of all of us. So thank you very much, Brother Coco.
No, thank you, my brother. Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for all the support you have provided. I know, again, on your end there is probably 11 p.m. So well done for everything. I know how hard you work, We will continue doing this, supporting each other. As I said, unity is strength. Matla, kikopa, amandla.